Hey everyone. So it's been a while and I have been on a totally new journey. This year has been all about resuming my journey of indie game development. And it's been it's been a pretty wild year for me. I've met publishers, I've launched beta launched a game, I've seen the data come in, analyze it, relaunched. I'm still on that journey now. But I have learned a ton of stuff and I want to share that with you. I want to show you what it's like speaking to publishers, getting rejected, building yourself up again, being completely lightly humbled by how I thought certain features in the game would do well and they didn't. So all of this stuff is really interesting, and I wish I had known beforehand. So if you're interested in learning about your indie game journey, not just from the point of view of making a game as a hobby project, but really making a game that is viable, and to build an entire company with and to show to publishers and investors, then I think you might want to hit like, hit subscribe, and make sure you stay tuned for the future videos. There's a bunch of stuff that's gonna really help you. It's helped me. I wish I knew, but at least I know now. So that's something, and I want to share that with you. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about something new that I learned, and this is the most, in my opinion, one of the most important words that you have to know and understand when you're building a game, when you're talking to publishers and investors potentially, but definitely with publishers. And you need to understand what you're aiming for when you're building a game, when you're making a game. And that word is retention. And retention is really just a measurement of how many people are coming back to your game after the first day. And that this stuff is not really things we think about when we make a game, right? We just assume people are going to love our game, and we just assume people are going to keep coming back and playing it. But on mobile, and some, not just on mobile, but I'm going to focus on mobile development. On mobile, it's fundamentally probably the most key thing, because if you have people coming back to your game and you have that measured, and it's not just an opinion, it's not just qualitative data, it's quantitative data that you're talking about. When you talk about how many people are coming back to your game, you can show that. It's a sign of how you can progress your game, that your game has the ability to bring people into the game and build those people's enjoyment over time to the point where eventually they will pay for things in your game, and that's how and add to your revenue, whether it's through someone playing your game over 10 days and watching X amount of adverts, or someone playing over 30 days and spending X amount on in-app purchases. But that will not happen really on day zero, on the first day. So retention is really important. When you talk to a publisher, they're all going to ask you the same question, which is, what is your day one retention? And they'll be like, what's your D1? And most importantly, they'll say, what's your D1 and is it above 30%? And if you have that, and what I mean by that is day zero is the first day that a user picks up and plays your game. So day zero will be, let's say 100 people download your game. 100 people look at your advert, and I'll talk about ads as well. It's a whole different topic, Facebook marketing, for example, or whatever it may be. But let's say 100 people see an advert for your game and then they download your game. So 100 people download your game on day zero. On day one, you need to have at least 30% of those people still playing your game. They need to come back to your game and they need to play it. If they don't, if you have like 5% or 10% or 15% or 20%, something is fundamentally wrong with your game, whether it's the mechanic, whether it's the story, whether it's just not fun, whether it's not interesting. Maybe you're marketing it to the wrong people, right? But you need to figure this out, and you need to fix that quickly, sooner than later. So the reason why retention is so important is because it will save you a whole ton of time and energy and money. So you need to work out what your retention levels are very, very quickly. I wish I had understood this. I had learnt some of this, but I hadn't really applied it. And I'm telling you this now because I'm hoping you apply this information. If you're thinking about doing game development, you have to do this. Otherwise, you're basically just wasting a lot of time. So most people will say, I've got a great game. I want to build this game for 6 months, a year, 2 years. You've set yourself up for failure here. Those times are over. Do not do that, especially if you're doing mobile development. Do not do that. What you need to do really, and this is what my recommendation is make around 20 minutes of content. Around 20 minutes. If you can do more, do that, but 20 minutes is a good measurement, I think, because it's quite easy to do. It's doable. You should be able to make 20 minutes of content for your game. The introduction, the game loop, that should all be applied in that 20 minutes so people can so you can measure if it works or not. And then release it in a beta launch as quickly as you can. That might take you a day, or it might take you a week to make 20 minutes of content. It might take you a month, right, to build everything out. But do it as quickly as you can and get that data, because once you have that data, you can decide if this game is worth pursuing or not, worth putting your time and energy on, or you can make a fundamental shift in the game design because you notice that people aren't coming back because it's not interesting enough game, or actually what happened to me is I found, and in a future video I'm going to show you, when I'm saying this day one retention and day analytics and stuff, it's all out there, but I will show you the actual graph in my game, from my game, and show you what that looks like. So stay tuned. I'm going to show you some of this stuff. It's super interesting. But what you might find is, let's say you have 10 levels in your game, you might find 100% of people complete level 1, 100% of people complete, no, actually 100% of people complete level 1, and then only 20% of the people complete finish level, or go from level 1 to level 2, and then only 10% get to level 3. Now you know something is fundamentally wrong between those levels, and you can work that out. And it might be a case of maybe the control system, maybe it's not entertaining, but something's going on. So you need to work that out as quickly as you can. Our natural tendency is to just assume our games are going to be great, and assume everyone's going to be able to play it, and assume everyone's going to be able to understand the controls and the story, and is going to feel like they want to progress the game. But it's just not the case, and the quicker you work this out, the better. So some things are going to stop you from doing it as an indie game developer. I know what you're thinking. You're going to be thinking, well, I like this game, I have a game loop. Let's say you were the creators of Angry Bird, right? If you were creating Angry Birds, what you would want to do is very quickly create that mechanic where you pull the little bird back, you let go, and it flies forwards and it hits the pigs or whatever, right? And that's level 1. You teach the person how to play, and then you want to create 20 minutes of that. Now, some people would say, well, the graphics aren't, maybe what about the graphics? They need to be perfect, and what about the story? I need to do a whole story, and nope, you don't need to do all of that. Just get those levels in, because what you're testing is the mechanic. That's what you're actually testing first and foremost. And by testing that, you get a baseline of whether the game will improve, or whether more people retention will improve or not when you add the story on or not. So you might get like 25% retention, and then you can take a step back and go, okay, well, cool, we know that this game keeps people, 25% people came back, but we know we can improve that with story. We know we can improve that with better graphics. So fine, that's a good sign for you to increase the amount of time and effort and money, really, that it costs you money to put into this game. But if you release that mechanic and you only get 5% of people coming back the next day, or no one comes back the next day, which is brutal, but it happens, don't think it won't happen, because it will happen, it can happen, then you know something is fundamentally wrong with that mechanic and you want to test that quickly. And there is a difference between testing retention with your friends and your family and testing it online by creating an advert, posting that advert, and then checking the analytics between how many people see that advert and how many people actually play your game. That is important. This is all really important. And I'm not just talking about how it's really good and it's really fun creating games. It's fun, but I'm talking about how to create a successful business. And I'm learning this stuff, and it's been a hell of a journey. But I think that this is a key thing that you really need to get. Nail this. See if you can hit that 30% for retention for day one, and then proceed. And ideally what you're doing is you're creating a game for mobile that scales really, really well. And what I mean by scaling is you can very quickly create more levels. It doesn't take you, if it takes you 5 days to create one level, and one level only lasts 30 seconds, there's again another fundamental problem with your game. So when I say quickly make 20 minutes worth of content, the chances that people will play your game for 5 minutes on mobile, 5 to 8 minutes, and then stop playing. It's fine. It's no big deal. And then play again, maybe later on in the day for another 5-10 minutes, and then come back tomorrow. So if you've got about 20 minutes of content, that should cover you actually from day 0 to day 1. Now, if people finish the whole 20 minutes in the first day, then that's fantastic. Then what you've learned is day 1 will be 0 retention because everyone's finished your game. But that's your opportunity to then say, now how do I create more content? So instead of saying, oh, well, I need to improve more graphics, I need to create more story, I need to blah 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 blah. No, you don't. You now know you're hitting 30% retention with just 20 minutes of content, as in people are finishing the game. So let's just add more content. And so the data is a driving force for a lot of your decisions, not just your passion or not just blind faith in, I really like this idea, I think people will come back and play it, and I think, but no, it's not going to work that way. And then when you have that retention over time, that will naturally decline. So over day 1 is 30, maybe day 7 it will be about 10-15. But you want to keep doing this, and you want to keep testing it, and you want to keep seeing if the changes that you make have an impact to retention. So on 1 week you might release it and you might have a 20% retention. You might have 10%. This happened to me. I had 10% retention. That is the point where you stop and you make a hard decision. Do I dump this game, or does the data show there's a fundamental issue that I can fix that can increase the retention? So in my case, there was an issue with the control system. I tweaked that, and it had an huge improvement in how many people were retaining between levels. But you will not know this unless you do this and you follow this, and you launch quickly. So my advice, my ultimate piece of advice to you is, do not make a game, do not spend longer than a month before testing your game, the retention on your game. Because if people are not coming back the next day, then your game might not be worth finishing. And you should be able to make 20 minutes worth of content. If you can't make 20 minutes worth of content, it might be that your game is not scalable. And that's something else you need to really think about as well. Like, how are you actually going to make this? How are you going to make this if you can't make 20 minutes worth of content? So maybe you're making the wrong type of game. And if you can make 20 minutes worth of content and you can do it quickly, well, you might have to ask yourself another question, which is, maybe you got 20 minutes worth of content because you're making a very difficult game. And it's difficult. It's taking 20 minutes because it's so difficult for people to complete, and people drop off because of that. So how can you get 20 minutes worth of content, and can you explain within those 20 minutes can you explain to a user how to get through those 20 minutes of, through onboarding and through guiding them through the game? So it's a new experience for me this year. I am on that journey of retention. In a future video, I will show you what the retention looks like in my game, and yeah, it'd be great to kind of share more stuff with you. In future videos, I'm going to show you about what it's like being speaking to a publisher. Again, this retention stuff, the publisher is going to ask you, what's your retention? What's your day one retention? If you're doing mobile, they're going to ask you this. So you need to know this so you can speak to a publisher and they'll take you seriously. Because if you don't have this, it does not matter how good your idea is. It doesn't matter how nice you are. It doesn't matter if they like you. It just does not matter. It doesn't matter how good your team is. None of that matters. Even if you have a demo, it will not matter until you have this answer. So work this out, get this, and then proceed forwards. All right, so this was the first video. I wanted to quickly make this video. So there's very little there's no editing in this one. But I think it's important to share this information and hopefully save a lot of you some time and effort. Don't spend a year building a game before you test this. I know your pride and your ego is telling you, no, it's okay. Swallow that, get rid of that. Just release what you have. It's okay if it's unfinished. It doesn't have to be clean and perfect. Just release what you have and test it. And if you get bad results because your graphics aren't great, it's okay. Just understand what that benchmark is. And what I mean by that benchmark is if you release it and you get 15% retention, that's okay. If you know there's really bad graphics, then you can say on your next release, I improved the graphics. Did it increase the retention? Because what's crazy is you might release it and think, oh, this whatever isn't good enough, graphics, story, whatever, right? And then you release it anyway, you get low retention, and then you go and you improve the graphics and you improve the story, whatever, and the retention doesn't change. And that's when you have to realize that it's not about that, it's about something else. It might be that fundamentally your game is broken, it's not fun. One publisher I spoke to said, you need to test quickly for retention so that you know your game isn't rotten in the core. And I remember hearing this thinking, wow, that is brutal. Like, what a brutal way to describe this. Like, you know, this is like my love. I love this game. How are you gonna say that? But it's true. You need to do this, because otherwise you will spend so much time and effort building this. And some of you are not gonna test because you're afraid. You're afraid that if you run this game, if you run your idea, if you throw it out there, it's not going to work. So you have to get over that, and you have to release it, and you have to accept the outcome, and then analyze the data. So I haven't really talked about what that data analytics look like, but maybe in a future video I'll show you how to add that into using different SDKs, whichever one you want. It doesn't really matter, but you just need to kind of work out what the level to level data analytics is, and what the kind of retention is. So maybe I'll do that in a future video. Look, if you like this video, if this was helpful in any way, please let me know. Leave a like, leave a comment of what you'd like to hear about in the future one. Maybe you'd like to know about what it's like speaking to a publisher, what they ask for, how to kind of analyze data, what my data look like in my game, what skills you should have. Let me know, because I usually do tutorials on game development, right? If you've been following me for a while, but we now know if you want to do game development, you can use ChatGPT to pretty much solve almost anything. So there's another level to this now, and that next level, that next step, is really understanding the business side of things and understanding how to actually make your game, how to make sure your game is successful before you just release it out there. So it's been a crazy journey so far, a lot of learning this year, and I'm really happy to be able to share it with you. I'm really happy that I've learned what I've learned, and it's giving me a huge shift in my mindset. It's no more about developing for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, trying to get investors to give you money and not really knowing if your game is, or your product is going to be successful or not. Test quickly, don't be afraid. It's okay to fail. It's okay to get those bad results, but get that quickly. I used to love the minimum viable product from Eric Ries, and the Lean Startup. It's a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, make sure you read that. I remember hearing about that years ago from a mentor of mine, Iris Lipinski. So she's amazing. That stuff is this is stuff that Google used, IMVU, Dropbox. All of these people had this mindset and this approach, and it's not that different in game development, except it's taking a little bit of time for mobile and game development to catch up, because they just didn't know how to measure what success was as quickly as they can now. As in the next day they can work out whether your game is successful. In fact, there's some companies, like I think it's Tenjin, that can now tell you whether your game is successful on day 0, which is crazy, but that costs quite a bit of money to do. But if you're in a position to do it, definitely worth your time, definitely worth your money as well, because it could save you hundreds of thousands, I mean potentially millions as well. Okay, anyway, hopefully this was useful for you. Leave a comment if it was. If it wasn't and you need me to kind of be a bit more specific, let me know as well. I'm happy to take any positive criticisms and improve things as I go on. Okay, everyone, take care. I really appreciate sharing this information with you. I hope it was useful. Leave a like, leave a comment, make sure you subscribe, and let me know what you'd like to hear about in the next video. All right, take care. Bye.